Dr. Bob is here. I'm a little nervous. I'm not sure what to do with my hands. That's a stage thing.
Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Ryan O'Neill.
Welcome to town.
Thank you so much. It's good to be in the Hornell area on a bustling weekend.
All right, let's start out with the big vote Tuesday, starting with California.
Yes, well, the fear was that you would end up in, I think they have 7 congressional districts targeted there that they think that somehow the Democrats can pick up some seats. And the fear was that you would end up with 2 Republicans finishing in the top tier on the primary in 1 or 2 of these districts. But that did not happen. However, the Republicans, who I think were all incumbents, one of them might be an open seat, did very well. And in terms of their vote turnout, the Republicans handily ended up on the top rung of the, and the Democrats were able to pick up the second spot here and there. So
I read somewhere online a story about that said that Soros had invested a lot of money into a district attorney's race out there, and it did him no good. The Open Society Foundation flopped in that one.
First, let's finish up the congressional districts there, Brian, and that is, I think the Democrats may pick up 1 or 2 seats here. I don't know. But it looks to me as though the Republicans in those seats where they are incumbents will probably do pretty well. And that, I think, harbinges pretty positive for the Republicans across the board. I think increasingly you're getting a sense in the media and across the country that the idea of there being a big blue tide coming down.
The blue wave.
Yeah, I think in that sense things look pretty good for the Republicans. The gubernatorial race there, I think you have the lieutenant governor, Democrat, running, and some fellow by the name of Cox, who apparently moved to California 4 years ago and is a multimillionaire, but his name recognition is, of course, pretty much zilch. Again, I don't know. It may be that he can position himself as an outsider taking on the establishment, which is all Democrat out there right now anyway. And Trump, of course, has endorsed him and pushed him, so he, in fact, ended up second in that primary. The chances of the Republicans winning the governor's spot in California, I don't think that's going to happen. And then I believe Dianne Feinstein did, in fact, hold on in her primary, so she'll be going into the general election there, too. So all in all, a pretty good night, I guess I'd have to say, for incumbents generally out there.
Before we move on to the economy and the book, The Great Revolt, there that you wanted to talk about, let's see, one of the headlines online is Trump expects any North Korea deal as a treaty for the Senate's review.
I see. Yeah. Well, that makes some sense. I don't quite know why he's putting it up that way right now. But again, when you're talking about the dissipation of the so-called blue wave, there's always a possibility that Trump will do something and really set things off. And it's clear that he is really heating up his criticism of Attorney General Sessions. And I'm thinking, sort of in the background of all this, is that Rudy Giuliani would like to be Attorney General very badly. And so I would
Based on recent statements that Giuliani has made, do you think that'll happen?
I don't know. I'm just saying that I think, in fact, he was one of the possibilities originally in terms of what would really be outrageous is if Trump appointed him to the Supreme Court. I think that might actually cost Trump the election. But that's, I think, Trump may well be getting some nasty attacks on Sessions from Giuliani, who, as we know, is a very ambitious man. So in any case, you got to kind of feel for Sessions, because I think that he's done really quite a stellar job under some pretty heavy pressure. In any case, that's something to watch.
How about the economy, Doc?
Well, the economy, as we know, is continuing to burgeon, and the newspapers this week once again played up the point we made, I think, last week or the week before, that there are more jobs out there than there are unemployed. Than there are people seeking jobs. I assume that's unemployed, but by about 500,000 or 300,000 more job openings out there. So the opportunity for the economy to heat up even more, I think, is there. Plus the whole area of energy, and our continuing to pump up the output of oil, and Trump's willingness to revivify the coal industry. I think the ability to offer ourselves as energy suppliers and for the rest of the world is going up and up and up. I think one of the things we have to think about here in terms of the economy, Brian, and I don't know if you've thought about it or not, is that you're getting all this criticism about Trump's tariffs and putting tariffs on aluminum, on silver, or on steel, and a number of other items. And of course, back in the 1930s, the use of tariffs, maybe 1920s, I guess, led to a big trade war, and it's considered one of the causes of the Great Depression. But today, the global economy is, to put it mildly, totally different from what it was back in the 20s and 30s. And one of the big differences is the United States is a 900-pound gorilla in the room. We are so huge and so prosperous that when we put tariffs on some country, it has to hurt. And I'm not certain they're trying to reciprocate is going to hurt us that much. I see the Chinese are already going out of their way to offer us big deals in terms of trade negotiations. And, Trump, I think, is amenable to negotiating in those sorts of... So I think it's a little different. It's not to say it won't end up badly. We really don't know, but it's a totally different kind of global economy, that's for sure.
Now, to quote the liberal media on the economy, if you do a Google search on the Trump economy, you see Bloomberg.
I don't do that, but go ahead.
Bloomberg and the Washington Post are poo-pooing the U.S. economy. Yahoo News is not, and neither is thehill.com.
No, The Hill has been pretty objective on all this. I think The Hill feels that the Trump people are, in fact, making some positive impact on the economy. And it's amazing what Americans can do if you just stay out of their way. And that leads to a couple of other points, one of which I've already forgotten. But I was watching C-SPAN 2 the other night, which is a very fine station in terms of reviewing books and such. And they had the authors of, I think it's The Great Revolt, is it? Man and a woman who did in-depth interviews during the last campaign with people across the country. And the man...
Brad Todd.
Yeah. What's his name?
The guy who co-wrote it with Salino Zito is a Republican strategist named Brad Todd.
Okay, and he's more moderate. And he pointed out that in this country, to the east of I-95 and to the west of number 1, that's where you have this liberal band of people who are really kind of out of touch with what the other 72% of the country thinks. And their in-depth interviews showed that again and again. And what was the woman? Zita, was that her name?
That's her last name, Salina Zito.
From the Ohio area, who has obviously spent a lot of time inside the Beltway, but her point was she had the example of this woman out of Ashtabula, who a longtime Democrat, well, a lifelong Democrat. Her family was lifelong Democrats, and she started a small business, etc. And she said, I'm voting for Trump because Trump is the only candidate who really is going to tear this thing up. And Todd said the same thing. He had a union man, I think in Maryland, or maybe New Jersey, who was a union steward, who said, no, I'm going with Trump, resigned his union position. He said, Trump's the only candidate who's really going to go in there and rip this place apart. And that's a thought that I think motivated a lot of people in this last election. And I think Trump is delivering on that hope. He's tearing things apart as much as he can. And even on the evangelicals, and I don't know which one of them made the point on the evangelicals, who are, concerned about some of Trump's moral stances and activities, but their point is nobody else is going to deliver for us. The other candidates all talk the Christian line, etc., but very few of them have even begun to deliver, and their view was Trump will deliver, and he is delivering for them. So I think, and as Zita said, she says, I visit inside the Beltway, I visit Washington, D.C., and I just shake my head. These people are just totally out of touch with what people are really thinking out there. So it's a book
Some describe it as like a group think type mentality, and they think everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, it's a bubble, and the Republican and the conservative think tanks and such. Guys like the editor of the Weekly Standard,
William Crystal.
Yeah, who dislikes Trump very much and thinks it's just way out of bounds. He's just part of the same kind of establishment that has milked conservatives for being able to mouth all kinds of conservative positions and, frankly, have very little to do in terms of effect. So it goes both ways, Republican and conservative. It's a bubble of people who are milking the rest of us, have been milking the rest of us pretty effectively. So naturally you're going to get outcries and screams of pain and all kinds of attempts at scandals and that sort of thing, which haven't been too bad, actually, given all the trees and things that Trump has been shaking up.
Now, Congressman Tom Reed has been talking about how the mayor of Ithaca and New York City Democrat Cynthia Nixon are pretty out of touch because they want heroin injection centers legalized. Reed made a big point of that. He opened his weekly press call blasting both Nixon and the mayor of Ithaca about that on Wednesday afternoon when he had his weekly press call phone conference. And this is something that Cynthia Nixon and the governor, or Cynthia Nixon and the mayor of Ithaca are putting, and Cynthia Nixon came to Ithaca to talk about this the other night, and what a great idea it is. Something that Reed is hoping the governor won't cave on. What do you think?
What's happening, and Cynthia Nixon is a good example, I think, of what's happening to the Democrats across the country. And there are a lot of middle-of-the-road and modern Democrats they're shaking their heads at this sort of thing. They're decent people. They got ideas that you can disagree with, but they're not total idiots. And this idea of providing drug-free zones where you can or where you get free drug zones is you talk about an opioid epidemic. I mean,
Reed says all that's going to do is wreck your town with drug dealers coming in.
It'll be terrible. And the experience that they've had. What is it in the Netherlands? In places like Amsterdam, they have whole sections set aside where you can go in and do all the drugs you want, and it's sick. It's just people are just totally bonsed out in these areas, and I guess the Netherlands, the Dutch's view is, well, if that's what you want to do, here's where you go do it. I think somewhere in this country we probably should draw a line there. But on the other hand, you've got he states pushing the legalization of marijuana and for recreational use, and so I think we'll pay a heavy social price for these ideas. The problem, going back to Cuomo and Nixon, is, of course, Cuomo has been busting and hightailing it to stay to the left of Nixon, and somewhere along the line he's going to have to draw the line because Nixon is obviously pushing the envelope, pushing, and Cuomo's only going to hurt himself at a certain point there. You got to find some spot to draw the line and say this woman's totally off the wacko list. But
we're going to take a quick break, Doc, check the forecast, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about the governor.
Save up to 50% off at local businesses in our certificate sales. Still going on. Go to our website, fun921.com, for all the details. Pay with a credit card or choose to pay cash in person. Then come up to our station to pick up your certificates. Don't have a computer? Visit us here at the station on Ashbaugh Hill Road, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Now, here are some of the sponsors we have certificates for. Annie's Restaurant, BK's Boutique and Florist, The Country Kitchen, Jody's Hair Design, Kimberly Glover, Milliner's Southern Smoke, Soho Clothing Exchange, and Yarn Over. And be sure and check back often because we're always adding new certificates. Thanks for saving money with us here at AM 1480 WLEA and Fun 92.1.
And before we get back to Dr. Bob, let's check in with Dr. Best.
Well, nice day during today. Not too bad. A little bit on the cloudy side at times, though, but beautiful weather coming up for the weekend, Brian. Looks like sunshine and some pleasant June temperatures with low humidity for Saturday and Sunday. Now, today, periodic clouds and sun. Could be a sprinkle, but by and large, it's going to be a dry day, 75 to 80 during this afternoon. This morning sunrise was at 5:33. It'll set at 8:46 this evening, and for this evening, just a few clouds around and down between 50 and 55 overnight. Sunshine with scattered clouds basically through Saturday and Sunday. High temperature each day, mid-70s, low 50s at night. It'll be sunny into Monday as well, and then increasing clouds on Tuesday, Brian.
We're back with Alfred University political science professor emeritus, Dr. Bob.
yes, well, thank you, Brian. Yes.
Governor Andrew Cuomo is going after ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They arrested a pizza delivery guy in Brooklyn who was delivering pizza to Fort Hamilton.
Yes. Yes.
And he's from Ecuador. The governor says he can get a free lawyer pro bono from the New York State Liberty Defense Project. I think this is another, I don't know if this is Cynthia Nixon. He was always kind of this way on the immigration topic.
I don't think this is, This is, now it is interesting, the whole DACA thing, our listeners may be aware, is coming to a head in the House of Representatives, and it may have already come to a head as we're speaking, I'm not sure. But the DACA is the attempt to somehow deal with these immigrant children who were born to illegal immigrants or were brought into this country, not born, but brought into this country by undocumented aliens. And now they've been here for years, and the question is, what do you do with them? And the conservatives don't want to give them what they call amnesty. I think Trump, frankly, would be willing to work out some sort of deal. But in any case, Speaker Ryan has been unwilling to bring this to the floor, and they've had it bottled up in committee. And in the House of Representatives, they have what is called a discharge petition, so that you can lay a discharge petition on the Speaker's desk there. And if you get 218 signatures, that bill has to be brought up to the floor of the House. And the last I heard, they were within 2 of the Democrats are all signing it, of course, and you have some moderate Republicans who are also signing it. And what's interesting, of course, is you can go up there and look at who's been signing it, and you can look at how close they are to 218. And so you've got a lot of negotiating and playing going on there, and I'm just hoping the Republicans can come up with something that deals with this and at the same time satisfies the conservatives. And it's not much of a chance much of any of this is going to go through the Senate anyway, but I think we got some members of the House on the Republican side that want to try to look halfway positive on this issue. So we'll see.
Dr. Bob,
Yes.
the Belmont Stakes coming up in, is that in Allegheny County this weekend?
No, there'll be a lot of activity in Belmont as usual on the weekend in Allegheny County, but I think the news cameras and such will be focused on the Belmont down to the east of us.
There's a horse named Justify that's going to be in that race.
Right.
You know who owns it?
George Soros?
You got it.
Well, I'm not going to wish him luck.
Do you have any? Are there any conservative horses in the race?
I don't know.
Do the Koch brothers have any?
No, I do know. Well, never mind. I do know some people that have some.
Dr. Bob, hey, thanks for stopping by. I gotta go.
Well, okay, if you got to go, well then I'll just turn the mics off.
Head down to OTB. I'll see you.
Turn off the lights.